Here we are, we made it. Going to the top of the mountain. It's been already more than an hour and about more than 93 minutes since I'm on the march, and I was moody earlier, but now I feel much better. Sweating a bit. It is April 13th and we're at the base of the mountain. Rainy day, stormy day, and it's always for the firefighters, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, the truckers, the electricians. I love that building. Super nice architecture, and always for the cooks, the welders, the daycare workers changing diapers, my anonymous friend, my allies and armies, pledge your legions, and we're gonna rock and roll in 24/7 for the plumbers, the butchers, the electricians, the nurses. Rainy day. Was moody earlier, but now I feel much better. I ate. Thank you, my anonymous friend, for brought me back just before I left. A big hamburger with cheese and lettuce, and it was delicious. So that has fueled my march to the mountain. Hey! First chipmunk of 2026. Don't pollute. We got chipmunks, squirrels, hawks, lots of flora, lots of fauna here at my second home, and I might have to stop if it starts raining again, because it's raining on and off all day pretty much rain on and off, and I don't want to damage my work tool. Here you gotta be careful. I think this was damaged by a lightning a few weeks ago. I was actually at the top on the other side, and I saw a flash, white bright light, and then about 3.5 seconds later I heard the big powerful thunder sound, and I'm pretty sure that it hit that 3, and just a few minutes earlier I was at the back there and I started filming, and you can see I started filming right after the storm, and then I go down and you see about 15 minutes into my filming, I reached that side and I see, hey, look at this. This was not here before, so it was probably it during that. It wasn't a lightning storm or a thunderstorm, it's just one powerful one. Maybe there was a storm around about, but at least on the island of the Hawk. First chipmunk that I saw, spring 2026. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. I got company. I got company with me. I got company. I gotta wash it by hands, Gotta wash it, and here I can let my mane out. My mistress. Second home atop the mountain, gonna rock and roll. For the forgotten goddess, for the plumbers, the electricians, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the welders, train conductors, choo-choo train conductors, and all those involved in the production and the distribution of food, and all those now who are in those trains, in the trains and on the planes and transporting the goods, the electrics, the electrification, Hydro-Quebec, and all the daycare workers to change some diapers. I gotta be thinking about them, the librarians, the teachers, the mathematicians, the construction workers, going up on those cranes, and always for the N.A.C.W.P, support my dream for the North American Collectif, the N.A.C.W.P, and usually it's about, the route that I took is about 15 kilometers, maybe even more to come here, and I've been already an hour and a half in my march, So I started filming late because it was raining, but now it kind of stopped. But see, it looks all foggy. It looks like the mountain, the forest, the island in the midst, the island in the mist, because we're an island, big island, Hawk Island, Montreal, right? And see, this is just one came out. The other ones have not lit yet, but just that one over there. So it's quite interesting. Just one is, I guess the other ones are gonna follow. And by the way, here, it's the electricity comes from Hydro-Quebec. It does not pollute. It is zero emission energy. Comes from the lakes, the rivers, from water. Oh, it's got a pebble in my eye. Some pebble, something was temporarily 3.5 seconds. I don't know what it was, but this is the third time today. This morning, this afternoon, and now it's about 7:07 p.m. EST. This you can go and if you need to go to the washroom. But look how it kind of looks a bit, kind of like Transylvania, a little bit of that Dracula-esque, Bram Stoker-ish type of situation. And I'm not a vampire, at least I don't know. Maybe partially. Maybe partially I haven't transformed yet. Still time, I guess. Anyways, here I am, my second home, and always rock and rolling, for the workers. Pledge your allegiance, legions is the song. Always freestyling that good rock and roll. And you know me, I am androgynous pansexual. I'm also an Aspie. I do have Asperger's, aka high functioning autism, ASD level 1, and it took me years and years and years to accept it. So I always gotta discuss it slightly, at least periodically, at least slightly, to send some loving big hugs. Hug like you never hugged before with consent to my fellow Aspie neurodivergent community, because I certainly suffered like many Aspies do. My community, unfortunately, as small as we are, a tiny portion of the population of the world in North America. When it comes to unemployment, underemployment, it's super high, 4 out of 5, 80%. That's massive, that's monstrous, that's like a horror movie, like a nightmare. Speaking of dreams, nightmares, I had strange dreams. I was boxing, three different boxing matches. I think it was Tyson Fury, Donald Trump, and like Usyk or something. Might be very strange and quite interesting. It seemed like I went all the way for 12 rounds, but I don't know who won. Did I win? Did the adversary win? Was it a draw? Was it look at that beauty. And if you know that since 2018, I have been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match. Let's do it on the Rumble on the Mountain and start building the North American, aka the Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, the Imperial People's Coliseum, something that I will to build, myself, and with your help, the construction workers, rock and roll. And here, if you come, please be extra vigilant, because myself, I have to put that into practice. As you can see, there's branches everywhere which have fallen in the past days, weeks, months, and years. Many branches fall because the trees, and after storms and after rain, there's branches. As you can see, the trees are not super healthy. Some of them are not that healthy. Some are healthier than others, and the branches crack. And so there's an added risk. As you can see, going years back in my videos, I always warn people when I see that they venture out. I tell them that the more they're here, they're at risk of branches falling. And see, what did I just say? Sometimes I toss them myself, like I'm going to toss this one. This one looks like it fell recently. See, it's cracked. So I'm going to throw it on the side. Oh yeah, that one would have been right in the middle here. Somebody could have walked. It could have been me. If it was just now or before, a few hours ago, it looked like it was within the last 3.5 days, by how it looked and how it felt on the hand and how it was positioned. So, because nobody else passed, maybe somebody passed but didn't take it and throw it into the sides, like many of these were thrown to the side. See, so it's always prudence. It's always be careful if you hear the crack. See, that one's about to fall. That one, there's a danger zone right there, because that one might come a little bit of strong winds and might come right here and fall on somebody. So just be careful. There's branches falling constantly. See, there's a constant awareness to be had, and extra vigilance. See, like these look like they were tossed again from the side here, from the side of the road, which myself, I tossed many. See, that one's cracked, waiting to just get some wind on it, a little bit of power, strength. And see, it's hanging by a little thread. It's cracked. You see there how it's actually cracked, right? See, it is actually cracked and it's just waiting to fall. So yep, just the faster you go, the more safer you are. The slower you go, And the more time you spend here in the forest, mistress on the mountain, the more at risk one is. And this is a general scientific standard risk assessment application by yours truly, Citizen Dragon, here in my second home, the Mountain Mount Royal, where I love to come. Sometimes during spring, spring, autumn, summer, I come 6 days a week even, Monday through the weekend. Sometimes I go to the river, depends, but generally between April and December, I can come 6 times a week here in my second home, or 3 times a week, 4 times a week, but nonetheless very regularly. Oh, that one is a very big problem there waiting to happen. See that one with the head kind of like, that one fell from above, as you can see. See, that one's cracked. So that one has a cracked, kind of looks like a wasp scepter head set, but you can see at the top that it comes from that side. So that one's hanging on the other branch. As you can see, it's actually cracked, right? See, it's actually cracked on the side. So as you can see it there, how it is hanging on that other branch. So that one is hanging on that branch from that tree and that branch from that tree. So that one will come down soon when there are some powerful winds, increasing winds, or even small ones like this can be problematic for children, right? So as you can see, they're all cracked there in half, some of them in thirds or halves and what have you. So prudence. I love coming here and meditating, rock and rolling, and of course myself with my special interest and my ritual routines. Some call it a discipline for from a neurotypical perspective, of which you are. The 99% of the population, you are neurotypicals. Yeah, and neurotypicals. And so that neurotypicals are of course advised to be on the relationship, of course, to get on the congregation, of course, to be on the left and on the side and in the middle, and get it on the left and in the middle, to be left on the sidelines or not, but to of course be obligated to get the left and the right and in the middle, of course, to congregate ourselves, where we establish ourselves in the domain where we got to correlate our principles and the principiates that exist now, right? Because these principiates, of course, are in the forest, and that being in the forest or not is something which we have, of course, to be left in the middle, on the left and on the right, and in the participate and in the principiates of the apparatus, of course, of the congregations, where we explicitly state ourselves that we are being led by a force, or being in the midst of a force, which is this Mother Nature, and this, of course, big mountain with these big branches and big trees, which are 7 times bigger than me. I'm just a piece of dust, right, myself. But there's that problematics, of course, of being that there's the problem when we got to correlate ourselves in the correlations where we got allowed to be in the domain, in the plurality of the principiates, and in the following through, of course, of the dimension and the regulations of our sophisticated parlance and academia and the academics of where we got to coexist ourselves and be involved in all the levels of meditation, whether artistic or not, or natural or not. It is certainly something which we have to avert, and of course we have to avoid the dangers by practical applications, of course, of prudence in this sphere which we are subservient to, and of course have to be subservient in a way that's not necessarily a dominating factor of inferiority or superiority, but in a reciprocal constant understanding that we are at risk. There's a danger, and the danger is, of course, that we are the familiarity, of course, of being ourselves in the prudent state of affairs is, of course, something where we have to correlate ourselves with, and something which we have to correlate our dynamics where we got now to be correlated in the suffusion of the implementation of these strategies or this protocol for security and safety, which will enable enable myself and others security and safety and prudence, and of course to avoid being hit by these branches, these branches which can of course harm us, right? Because look at that was a big huge branch, eh? See this one here, look at that one. These ones, this is super big there, see? So sometimes it even damages the sides here. So you gotta be careful because there's branches, eh? That fall, eh? Guys, be careful here, eh? There's branches that fall, eh? Yeah, you're welcome. Just the more you stay, the slower you go. If you hear cracking, be careful because some of them, they fall. You're welcome. So that's the problem here. See, like this one's big. So this one was tossed from the side. And if people don't know the branches, you can stay there and just, they can crack on, They can just fall on you and see like this one here. See, that one. That one's there ready to fall. See on somebody? See how it's standing on nothing? One branch there. See? It's just waiting. If there's wind, that branch has fallen from above and is standing on other branches. See there? Just right there. So that's why you gotta be careful. You hear a wind, you just gotta look up. Be careful, look up. Just be careful, look up. Strategize, think, and look up and take some steps, or look up, do a 360, left, right, and assess and stay safe, because yes, you're at risk here. You're at risk of falling branches. So that chapter is going to be closed now for falling branches, and we're going to move into geopolitics and of course the relationships, of course, where we are to be, of course, involved in the geopolitical relations, of course, of having established these stratagems, of course, to correlate ourselves, and correlation, of course, this reality, a reality which is due to the natural aspect of this life. So if the wind comes faster or more powerful, all these branches can fall, eh? That's why you always see them above. You always see them, always ready to move. Myself, I kept it on camera, eh? Last year, huge one. It was not that close, but you can see it on the camera how it like went down. It wasn't that far away. It was a few yards, a few meters, like a half a football field to my right side. I was atop there in the mountain, so I actually caught it on camera last year. Not this year, but it was, I think it was winter as well. Winter. So you have a lot of falling branches, just, that's the protocols here, because they can fall, so that is just the relationship of where we exist now, eh? Inside the branch, inside the forest, on the mountain, which can be a little added security. Because see if they can fall here to the left or to the right. See there? That one's big. Eh? That was huge. Well, those ones are the ones that are the more dangerous ones, right? Sometimes they even damage the garden. See? They even damage the garden. So that was just the relationship of what we have now, to be on the side of the sphere and the spectrum, of course, to be inside and in the dimension of being fully aware of the environment. And that's why I also advise and let other people know, fellow citizens, where we are inside and outside of the sphere of this beautiful, majestic mistress of with now in the mist, and it seems like the mist is clearing, and of course the air is fresh, and you get little beauties, little open air beauties there, like that one. And the air is so fresh here. You can inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and of course concomitantly inhaling and exhaling. And oh yeah, see, this would have been a very dangerous situation, but these are huge. This even death, eh, is so big and heavy that severe damage would have been possible for the body. Those are just very, very big, but those are more extreme cases, right? That just that corner there. Most of them are medium size, smaller size, right? And then the huge ones like that, right? So that is just where we are now, to be related in ourselves and on our presentation where we got to be correlated in and to have, of course, the relationship of these monsters. Like that one, that's a monster which fell from that, see, from the top there. Somebody could have been playing there and that would have been sufficient for powerful damage. And look at these beauties, see? They got a little bit of that beauty. Oh, please don't pollute. I'm starting my season for years and 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 years. You can see me collecting, doing the Mother Nature's work here, see? That's why we need the DJ, because this goes where? I don't mind you eating, but this goes in the this goes in the recycling, so that goes in the recycling. And there's another cracked. This one would have fallen or somebody. There's another crack from the side. See how it cracked? But that one's actually not super fallen, but it's cracked. You talking to me?
Yeah, are you streaming?
No.
Just getting content?
I'm just, I was just meditating on the branches. You go in the forest, be careful because the branches fall, eh?
What do you mean? How? The wind?
Yeah, you see there are branches that are cracked there.
Yeah.
See,
I see some everywhere.
Everywhere. So if you decide to venture out,
Yeah.
you have to be careful because if there's wind, it might fall on you.
Yeah.
Are you streaming? Are you
Yeah,
streaming?
for
From
sure.
where from?
Kick.
What is that?
It's just a streaming platform. It's like Twitch, but Kick. It's more open, They let anybody do anything.
What are you streaming about?
Montreal, man. I'm letting the city be the content for this summer.
Okay, where are you from?
Montreal.
Oh, you're Montreal. Okay. Oh, yeah, like
Born
myself.
and raised. Yeah, you too?
Yeah. Anyways, gonna keep going. Finish
Absolutely.
my workout.
Have a good one, brother.
Love you later.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of that streaming on the side. I wasn't sure, but it was talking to me or whatever the case may be. It's something which we have to be prudent about, but that is something which we have, of course, to be on the relationship of being now and the relationships of everything that we have now to be correlated about and, of course, get a little bit of that pieces and to be that left and right manifestation, of course, of the dynamics presentation what we got now to be doing a little bit of streaming there, and we got to be correlated what we have now. So that is just the dynamic, to be co-representation. So that's what we have now, so that's where we coexist and that's what we got, and that's where we relate ourselves in this top of the mountain here is fellow Montrealer as we are, and we got to get it for the left and the right. And just ask where you're from because I thought it was a tourist. Never saw the citizen before, and I haven't left the island for so many years, for so many years, and that's where we are. But no, I'm not live streaming. I'm just doing a little bit of that content, and live streaming, I guess it passes through those G towers, so to those G towers, and that's where we are now. So that's where we are. So that's where we are, of course, to get on the left and on the right and in the middle, and to get it on the left, and that's where we are. So here we are. Oh, this is a new addition. Oh no, please don't pollute, don't leave it there. And that's what we are, so that's how we exist now, to be correlated in the relationships where we are to be correlated in the work which I'm doing and he is doing. So yeah, now my mind was going a bit in a direction which was mathematically inclined, so I'm just gonna discuss a bit because in my mind, although I don't know the tech, I'm not a super scientist in this life, but I am above average in mathematics. However, I was actually considering how many branches have fallen in the past since the beginning of the year from the trees, right? So, of course, there's a certain amount of branches which have fallen, right? But then I would have to classify them, because their classification, of course, is from 1 to 3 to 4. So I could do 4 classifications: small, medium, large, and extra large. Just like the bridges that we have to build between me, you, and us, like neurotypicals with neurodivergence, where we have now to be correlated and in the dynamic where we got now. So all that left and right appellation is something what we have. So that is what we are, to represent ourselves and to be, of course, the dynamical representation. And we gotta get it on the left and on the right. And so, right, yeah, my autism is always going to be present, right? It's always going to manifest at different levels of intensity. So I was actually trying to calculate. Of course, it's a speculative mathematical calculation, but for example, this branch would have been inclusive, right? See these branches, but then I would have several categories, right? Because this one, see, although you see 1, 2, and 3, this one, we would have so many different categories, right? So many different categories. So this one will be one category of kind of big or small or in between, So of course that's what we got to be correlated and to be represented about and to be aware of. But of course, there's a certain amount. The grand architect of the universe knows exactly the amount. I don't know the full amount since January 1st until today, April 13th. But if I would say that a total amount of branches fell from a tree, then I would classify them in 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, small, medium, large, or whatever size. And of course, that would also mean that they would be classified in different ways, or I could say from any given tree. So forget the 4, small, medium, large, extra large, but I would say how many branches fell from trees. But it's possible that the different times, different months, different weeks, different days, that same tree shed different branches. So that would be 1, 2, 3 times from that particular tree, and then we do the multiplication, and I would have, like, let's say 718. I don't know, I just say 718, but those can be classified. So that's something I was discussing with my fellow citizen. He was live streaming. He asked me a question. I wasn't sure at first because I was in my bubble. Sometimes I'm so deep in thinking and in my bubble that at first I didn't realize what he was addressing me. So that's why it took me a bit. That's why I asked, "Are you talking to me?" And said, "Yeah, he was live streaming." So that's what we got, and that's why we're rock and rolling. So that's why, of course, be ourselves now in the domains of having and the left and the right sphere. And my brain is different. I would have liked to engage, maybe ask that question. You would have said, what a weird question to ask. Yeah, because Aspiesque brains, brains of people with autism are different. We see the world differently. We think differently. We perceive the world differently. So things such as these mathematical relations or mathematical realities or mathematical speculations are always part of my thinking in many ways, right? So I'll always have some mathematics going on in the background of my brain, such as now in relation to the branches. And of course, I don't have the full number, but I would have to designate the area. So the area designated would be the roundabout the mountain, Mount Royal. So it would be this specific area, right? It could be hundreds, it could be thousands as well. But then, because there are smaller ones like this, so these will also count, the small ones, right? Like this one. That one is not that big, but nonetheless, it counts compared to this one that I'm carrying now all the way to the back here, of course. But this one is also one that will count, of course. That will count. So, of course, to correlate or think about the stratagem of employment that we have here at a new table. This is the rock table, and we have rock tables, and then there we have another table. So there we will to build the Forgotten Goddess temple right here and the House of the Dragon. We're going to come work out with these rocks here in the coming days, weeks, and months. And here we have a few tables. Those few tables which we have now are, of course, engaged in building more tables there Here we got like 1, 2, 3, and there we got 1, 2, 3, and the other ones we have a few of them, which are the fourth one here, small one, small tables everywhere, rock tables, earth tables, and of course smaller tables like this. This looks like it was brought in recently. I don't think it was there last time, so here we go. So somebody wrote something there. So here we go. Here we go, and here we are, I guess. We're gonna put it all the way here and have this table right there by the rock, and I guess got a little bit of dirt and continue the discussion. So there's always mathematics going on in my brain. Now, when the citizen engaged with me, so he was live streaming and a platform that I'm not too aware to engage with, not at all actually, and mostly do YouTube, even Facebook I haven't been in ages. It's mostly YouTube, some Instagram, but live streaming, I guess you can commission some live streaming work, but nonetheless I was wondering how it actually works, and through the 3G, 5G, 4G towers, and there's some towers over there which we're gonna go visit. I'm just gonna put my hand here at the other table. This is another table calling on to the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. My trillions of kisses on these tables, trillions of kisses. So I guess we made a little bit of table here and bury me atop here. Bury me right here every 11 years, switch and come back. My body to the city of the pyramids, bring it back here. Hampton, New Jersey with Papa Crowley, and here we go, rock and roll. Here we're gonna work out in the coming days, weeks and months ahead. Not now because it's wet and thus the rocks are slippery, and I got a little bit of that rock and rolling to do. Heading back to my headquarters, doing this rock and roll geopolitical meditation and art event. There's always an event, always working out, always my Aspiesque ritual routine, eh? Like I said, neurotypicals call it discipline. I'm back to the live streamer. I wonder how technically, right? There are like waves which transmit our voice or the sight and convert it digitally. So we are be able to live stream, because in my dream, of course, a mass public-private partnership, we need to establish the total SSD, security, service and defense, security, service and defense, the total SSD platform. That is the total security, service and defense, security, service and triple S, surveillance for the greater good, for total SSD, security, service, surveillance for defense and for regeneration, and my theories, protocols for the North American civilizational complex, best at this moment in time. So of course there's some technical knowledge about, of course, the material. Of course that technical knowledge about the material is, of course, something which we have, of course, to correlate ourselves with, and of course that correlation is, of course, the manifestation of where we have now that we are to be moved for a total 24/7 surveillance, security and defense, public-private partnership, which is my total 911 Dragon, total 911 North American Dragon collective security and service and surveillance defense complex, which is fundamentally a call for a mass public-private partnership in the relationships of where we have now to be correlated and domained. But that is just where we attain today and in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead, in a plurality, of course, and to be and to have, of course, the manifestation of which we are to be engaged with. But I was wondering actually how that live streaming works from that point in time when his gadget that he was utilizing on a stick, I guess he had more technical means and capabilities. But of course, the gadget, the electronics, is connected to the 3G, 4G, 5G, 5G, 4G most likely, then 3G, and of course it's waves that are transmitted digitally and convert live stream, well, if you want to say there's a little second in between, right, because it's not correlated to super physics to have the co-equivalence of exactitude of the point-in-time transmission, but there's that slight second, right? That is in between the distances, right, from the gadget to the different towers, as of course all the 3G, 4G, 5G towers are always collecting data and information from our gadgets. Hey, look, there's still snow. There's still snow. So, of course, as we move now throughout the world, Montreal with all the 3G towers, and we got three major providers, right? We have Rogers, AT. We got Bell. We got Telus. So pretty much the main three providers of internet and telecommunications, mobile phone, smartphone services. The plans, I'm not going to say who I'm with, but nonetheless, that is the relationship of what we have now to be correlated. Now it's just ourselves waiting. That's why we have to be involved in 24/7, where we got to correlate our being, and of course, the transmission of these live streams which are going on constantly are sort of also through the towers, and satellites are always transmitting between two different, it's of course a multitude, hundreds of thousands of computers connected. That's the internet, basically. It's hundreds of thousands of computers in our smartphones are of course like super mini computers, right? In a way they're like computers, and for all I know I could be a cyborg myself, microchipped, connected with that parallel self. I get headaches because it's also an Aspiesque super scientist, and the papers that gives me are about science, telecommunication, and I build, create, design satellites, satellite supercomputers, microchips. I'm no Ben Gortzel, but of course I'm no Ben Gortzel, nor am I any close to being a Claude Shannon. Claude Shannon is not that well known, but you can go, of course, 12 rounds, of course, with the best of the best in science and technology, especially Einstein, and to be that correlated, of course, to be coefficient in the domains. But that is just the reality of where we coexist in this reality now on the 13th of April. And I'm not a master of physics nor computer science, but I'm above average in math, like many Aspies. I'm above average in math, and there's always mathematics going on in my mind. So I was actually trying to calculate the live streaming, the MPBs, gigabytes per second, or what have you, and the calculation and the ratios, and all these technical capabilities, of which I'm just beginning. But sometimes it could happen that you learn fast, if you put your will to it. See, this one would have been deadly. This one would have been deadly right here, So this one would have been deadly right here, right? Oh yeah, this one fell and damaged, of course, and that is just the damage where we are now, to be correlated in the domains, and that is just the relationships of where we have now to be involved in the spectrum, and the full spectrum affairs of being inside and outside of the sphere of nature and civilization, whence we have this reality that even here, there's a way to live stream, because we have the towers over there and we have the capabilities. So as much as we are immersed in nature, the waves can actually be present right here, the radio waves, microwaves, radio waves, right? In theory, in that parallel life, once I build satellites, I can actually look and gaze upon the flora and the fauna of the mountain, and even with a satellite, has infrared capabilities, I can track the movements and the jogging and the marching and bodily humans, and in theory, all communication between two points of whether it's satellites and computers, whether it's computer networks, where it's of course telecommunication networks, such as of course the smartphones and the phones that we use to text, vocal texting, or by voice or voice transmission, voice transmission, or of course the VoIP transmission, or the other correlative aspects of the VoIP transmission, where we have it, of course, is the manifestation of that it can actually be intercepted by a third party as well, right? So there's always that reality, right? I'm not going to go into a deep analysis of ethical, moral academic scholarly analysis of Harris Corporation, who very much developed the stingrays, which so they are CPUs or CISs, but sometimes it is necessary, right? Sometimes it is necessary, and I always go back to my action in 2016 because now it's even more relevant than it was. But I did, of course, an initiative which saved lives. Potentially, I did an anti-terrorism work. I discussed it in my videos. When I discovered Islamic State propaganda in 2016, I always say that's why I was saved myself to do that action. I didn't die in that moldy place where I used to live. I moved where I live there now with nothing. I had nothing. I was depressed, suicidal. So for me, it's always my best day is today. My best day is today. And if you're 18 or plus for that play, you have to be 18 and plus. You have to be 18 and plus for that play. If you're black or white, gotta be friends with benefits. So if you're 18 plus, and that's how we are, only friends with benefits. Otherwise, what for? I don't need. Or friends with services. 21st century, I call that friends with services, and that is just what we have now to be correlated, and that's what we got to be inside of our and outside of the sphere of the representational aspects. But of course, it's always living for today with the carpe diem for today, what we have now to relate ourselves in the spheres of both civilization and nature, and our North American civilizational collective as well as we have now to be, of course, involved in all the domains where we exist to relate such events in my life prior to also myself as a citizen at the micro level who's neurodivergent, who's different, and in relationship to my actions vis-a-vis the greater good at the macro level, the North American collective. When I say the North American collective, is fundamentally Canada, United States, for the North American collective in the North American civilizational complex, which of course includes Haiti, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico, but is of course also including the other countries such as Mexico, but primarily I relate, of course, to Mexico as well, because Mexico is part of the North American collective, and of course, but primarily when I discuss certain affairs or certain, of course, civilizational aspects, of course, such as the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt refusion theory, and that's why we have, of course, to be correlated in the debt refusion theory for Canada and United States, which must be implemented, of course, in ASAP, and of course, it is a strategy which we must implement, of course, in the domains, and of course, that implementation has to come via mass public-private partnership. So without being too academic, intellectual, or sophisticated about it, it's something that I discuss often. I will discuss today. I have to read my transcripts from the past as Rock&Roll scripture, so that is another branch which possibly, of course, fell and possibly, of course, could have harmed a lot of people thereof, but I'm glad that it didn't. And here we have to be prudent, of course, in the relationship where we are now to correlate ourselves and the faculties of where we exist, and that's where we exist today, to live for today and live for tomorrow as well. Because for me, it's really today. Today for me, it's really today. Because for me, when I go back in the past, bad times, depression, suicidal, losing friends, losing jobs. And it took me years to accept my neurodivergence, as long as I know, of course, for as long as I know that I have been, of course, in the open, being androgynous, pansexual, of course, part of the LGBTQ community, even have Rainbow, Dragon, Limo songs about. Since 2012, I wrote a song, and I have several versions of it. Kind of goes like Rainbow, Julius Caesar. I do it with black and white and rainbow. Bringing their legions of homos, legions. It's a rock and roll rap song, rap/rock and roll. I'm mixing basically homosexuality and Julius Caesar. I do it like Julius Caesar, big booty, Julius Caesar, black and white and rainbow for my legions. Julius Caesar, get that booty. Julius Caesar, for my homos, rock on black and white and rainbow, black and white and rainbow. I wrote it in 2012, but I don't remember that far back. I just have several versions of it. I have a good memory of the past 9 years, 10, and it gets a bit foggy, blurred. And before 2014, 2014, January, February, 2014, late 2013, October, November 2013, of course, it gets a bit blurred. With that big head there, see? It kind of looks like, as you think of a wasp scepter. The wasp scepter, see? Like a was scepter, ancient. I lived many incarnations, many past lives from ancient Egypt, so that's what we got now, ancient Egypt, and that's what we have, of course, to be correlated ourselves and to co-establish ourselves in the domain of which we exist now, in the correlative aspects of our civilizational prudence and all our relationships that we are to build from today. For me, it's work related. This one looks like a wasp. See, looks like Canada, United States, we must unite, fuse together. See? That's how we are now, and that's how we correlate, and that's how we have to be in the civilizational aspects, of course, of being in the side and in the middle, of course, to correlate our dynamics and to have, of course, the relationships of what we discuss now, to be in the middle, of course, of all the civilizational spheres of existence, and of course, that is something what we have now to be involved in all the levels that we exist, and those levels that we exist are now addressed via growing food insecurity. With the Strait of Hormuz, there's even a discussion that the prices of food have been, of course, on the increasing, and of course that the prices of fertilizer is going up even in the United States. So actually, if you look back to years and years ago, not just 2019, because I go back to October 2019 principally, when I, of course, have predicted, of course, that there has been an international conflagration, and of course an international conflagration is what I have predicted back then. But of course that international conflict has arisen or has manifested or is manifesting as I have predicted it back, of course, in 2019. But parallel now to the new Iranian conflict and the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, United States, please don't leave the trash here. For years and years and years, you can see back to my years and years and years ago. So, of course, years and years ago, I predicted what's happening now, and of course, that's all we have, of course, now to be relative about and to engage ourselves in our plurality, where we are absolvent ourselves and to do the good deeds of recycling, because it's important, to recycle. I don't mind you drinking here, but as you saw, we have rabbits, we have chipmunks, we have, of course, chipmunks, rabbits, and of course those chipmunks and rabbits that we saw throughout the different times that I do the filming, especially with the raccoons as well, because we got raccoons, we got chipmunks, we got lots of flora fauna. So this is no good. This has, of course, to be related about, and that's relationship where we are now, of course, to correlate ourselves into relationships of where we exist now. So of course that relationship is, of course, the relationship of establishing the concordiate of being in the domain where we got now the plurality of these absolvencies, and of course that's how we coexist here and this grand majesty of these beautiful, of course, beautiful skyscrapers which exist, of course. It's something where we have to admire, of course, and I love the construction workers who build it, and there's my favorite skyscraper, that's my favorite skyscraper there, and of course, something which we have to be, of course, involved that it actually took lots of, not just, of course, it took a lot of building to be built about, which, of course, it required the cranes, so because it requires the cranes, and there's my favorite skyscraper, the pyramid, and you can see for yourself the beauty of the majesty of the city, how great it is, and all this electricity is clean, zero pollution, zero emission. Doesn't pollute at all, so it requires cranes, of course, to build it. In the construction, and of course, that construction work is something which we have, of course, to correlate ourselves with the domains of which we have, of course, in the plurality of the absolvency of having built, of course, the great civilizational complex of which we are part of, the North American collective civilizational complex of where we have now. So that is just something which, of course, I gotta give credit to where credit is due. The construction workers who build, of course, all the cranes, and it requires cranes, and all the work that has been done for us to have electricity. The Hydro-Quebec workers, we got 63 dams. Actually, it's a power generating station, 63 power generating stations of which we have now. That is just the relationships of where we got to have this great beauty and great reality of that the electricity does not pollute. So the electricity does not pollute inside or outside, meaning that it comes from the water, the hydroelectric water, 63 dams, which generate, of course, all the electricity, of course, in the relationship aspect of having been now in the domain of where we are to correlate ourselves. And that correlation is, of course, the manifestation of the science and the work and the labor behind building the dams, which I don't pretend that I know much about. I just know a little bit. But I do know that I salute it, because all the electricity, even in my phone, the electricity that you see all around doesn't pollute, comes from water, comes from water. So of course, being that it comes from water, that is of course the relationship that it's clean, zero pollution energy, and it doesn't pollute. So that's great, that's super cool. And what do we have there? Does it work? It doesn't work. See there, it is a bunny. That's why I say don't pollute. See, tick, 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 hoppy hop. Don't worry, I'm not gonna harm you, because I love you. But see, that's why I say don't pollute, don't leave trash here, So don't leave trash where we got now to be correlated in the respective aspects, of course, where we got in the sphere of harmonizing civilization and nature. It requires individual action, and furthermore, my call for the DGA has been a constant for many years, the Dancing Goddess Army, as a mass public-private partnership in the correlative aspects, of course, of creating and doing the public-private partnership Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, aka Imperial Integrated Dance League, to dance for the environment, for environmental action, and nature, right? Because nature is our friend, but it's sometimes a friend with benefits and services, but requires adherence to certain of principles, I guess, of reverence in so many ways, without being too mystical. But I am a mystic, and I do believe in reincarnations, many past lives. Sometimes I was born a woman, from ancient Egypt, now to now, a woman, a man, 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 a woman. Now you get that 50-50, and as long as I can remember, I've been in the open. It's just that, although I have a very good memory of the past years, my memory before early January, February 2014, late 2013, it's on the blackout. Basically, retrograde amnesia. I don't know if before 2014, of course, it was left and right in the relationships, and that's why we have, of course, to be correlationship, and that is just the way we have now to be correlated where we have now, So that is just the reality of what we coexist, of course, in the relationship aspects of what we have now. So that is the relationship of not polluting. Please don't pollute. I don't mind you drinking, and this is dangerous, so that can harm citizens. So this one I have to put in the trash, in the garbage, and this one I have to recycle, and this one I also have to put in the recycling. But this one is danger because, as you can see, it's broken. So this one, bunnies, rabbits can harm themselves. So please don't leave the trash like that. Just recycle it and put it in the trash, put it in the recycling if it goes, in the recycling, in the trash. Don't leave it like that, because it's broken and it will damage the flora and the fauna, and it will damage maybe a rabbit, the rabbit that we just seen. Maybe that's why I will save myself, to do some, of course, environmental action. And it requires the individual, right? I don't mind you drinking, I don't mind you making love, as long as you, I guess, like, you have to be careful, because you can make out, I guess, but within limits, because there might be families with children as well, so gotta be wary of families with children, and just gotta be careful for others. But there it is. So now it's gonna be safer for me. I'm just gonna put it inside there like that. Okay, there we go. So that is going to get a drain of water. I'm gonna get the leaf off of it, and now it's safe for me to carry it, and I'm gonna carry it safely until we reach the place to drop it in the recycling, because like that I'm not gonna get cut. My hand is safe because there's a risk for my hand as well. So yeah, see, I did some work, and I'm always working, and for years and years, right? You can see it on my videos. It's been years, more than 7 years, a decade now that I come here and see my videos of me doing these little actions in the forest because it's needed, eh? Because until they would have lasted, only if you have something going in the summer, usually cleaning, then they would have stayed there for another few months, and that would have been maybe a rabbit, the rabbit or the chipmunk that we saw earlier in the video, that would have been damaged by the broken glass beer bottle. So I don't mind you drinking, drink, eat, just put it in the trash if it goes in the trash, and put it into recycling if it goes into recycling. Chapter closed. I'm heading back to my headquarters because I did purchase a chocolate bar, so that's going to be my victory 300-gram chocolate bar. So basically it's 3 chocolate bars, not 1, but I treated myself. I said I'm going to clock in 4 hours, maybe 5, 4 minimum, for maybe 5 hours of marching, and that's going to be my little victory because tomorrow I have to do laundry for my anonymous friend, and I'm always on my ritual routines, eh? I do have ritual routines. Aspies, we have what are called ritual routines. So I will always be engaged every day in doing repeating activities, whether studying, analyzing geopolitical news, and geopolitics never sleeps. Hey, there's always geopolitical events happening even now every hour. Just like there's always a sunset and a sunrise, there's always a sunset and a sunrise somewhere in the world. Now the sunset is beginning here in Montreal, Island of the Hawk. I'm just going to go quickly show the beauty of the city by that way, because it's also a great visibility from that, because that is a new location where you can go, and I advise people go. Just be careful for the branches. If it's windy, I would advise you not to stay, but if it's a pleasant day, spring, summer, autumn, I come here even during the winter storms, eh? You see my videos? I'm alone. It's a winter storm, cold, minus 25. I'm coming here at the mountain, but this is a nice place. It's relatively new, eh? I like it with the rocks. I would like a little bit more color, some red and green and red and orange and rainbow, but hey, it's a nice little, a bench would have been super nice right here. Or right on the side there, I would have maybe a bench with just an area close by with a fence for safety. Right there where the rocks are, and just right between there would have been nice 2 benches, for people to make out. Or there's the city. So all this light, electricity comes from Hydro-Quebec all the way to a few states, 3 states at least, all the way to Manhattan Island. Our electricity from Hydro-Quebec, 63 generating power stations power many states in the United States, and all the way to New York. And all these lights in this great city of the Hawk Island, Montreal, comes from clean, zero pollution. Our electricity doesn't pollute. Isn't that super cool? And that is you don't see it that well because it's not lit. Interestingly enough, there's not that many lights as usual. Sometimes it's red, green, and purple and rainbow even. There's the pyramid. The pyramid skyscraper is right there, although it's not that visible now, but you can kind of see it still, the pyramid there. So here we are on the relationship of where we got now to be co-representationally, and atop this mountain, the Hawk Mount Royal, my second home here, where we're going to turn the page and we're going to discuss a little bit of autism, Asperger's, which I have autism. I'm on the spectrum of autism. I have ASD level 1, autism spectrum disorder, and HFA, high functioning autism. High functioning autism is the same as Asperger's. I'm an Aspie basically. So it is the same thing. Aspie and high functioning autism, HFA level 1. High functioning autism is ASD level 1 actually, which stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder Level 1, and that's what I am, an Aspie. And of course, it took me years and years, of course, to be, of course, an Aspie, to accept my neurodivergence. It took me from October, of course, early October till 2022. So early 2015, since about early 2015 till October 2022, so more than 7 years, I've been told by several individual citizens who have experience working with people on the spectrum, citizens on the spectrum. So since from about from about early 2015, spring 2015, till about October 2022. So for more than 7 years, I didn't want to accept the stigma. I wasn't fully convinced, but until finally about, it's going to be 3 years and a half, around April 24th, 25th, 24th of April, I would say that's going to be about 3.5 years. 3.5 years since I have fully accepted that I have Asperger's. It's something that I engaged to get some support. I don't need much support. In certain cases, I guess, yes, I can qualify for special needs. However, it's not fully special needs in the full sense of the word, more understanding, right? More understanding, and it requires lots of patience with Aspiesque. It can be hard to manage and hard to understand how we view the world differently, and certain things just come very difficult for us. They're very difficult. They're very hard to integrate, to accept, to fully comprehend. Of course, the full comprehension, of course, of being and the relationship of being an Aspie, of course, fundamental relationships of where we got now, the relationships of where we exist ourselves with, and the produce and the realities of where we are ourselves are fundamentally in a constant way of expressing ourselves, or we have certain aspects. Generally, we have certain characteristics or traits which are odd, weird, and strange, such as certain bodily movements. And yes, in parentheses, I have the dedie, disability and disorder, but that parentheses is superseded and cancelled out by the double SS, the special skills, the special skills, the SS, the special skills. So that's just what we are in the spectrum of being, the relationship now to be correlated in the dynamics of being all of ourselves now, and all of ourselves in the relationships of being and categorizing the left and the right spectrum. Now we are different, and myself included. I will always be different. There's no medication. Asperger's is not a disease. It's not an illness. It is a neurodivergence. I just have to be told more directly certain things. With Aspie, sometimes you have to be precise and direct with the language. With the use of language, you have to be precise and direct. Precise and direct. Precise and direct. And of course, being precise and direct. Precise and direct. It is the relationship where we are now to be able to build bridges with a small, medium, large, extra large. Especially, I gotta give a shout out to my anonymous friend. If I make a million, I'm gonna give half for the book, which was loaned from me from the library, called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, and also books which were gifted to me on autism, and the encyclopedia, kind of, it's sort of an encyclopedia on Asperger's Syndrome, and one is called Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting All Their World is a Stage. Now, that is the title. It's like a paragraph, but is a title, a long one. I realize it's longer than usual for a title of a book, but that is, I guess, with a subtitle. It's called Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting All Their World is a Stage. I guess All Their World is a Stage is like the subtitle, but Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting All Their World is a Stage is the whole title of the book. It's a bit strange, but I guess it's Aspiesque, so it somewhat helped, I guess, in a little way, in a more practical manner, to integrate sort of acting, but without masking, right? Because autistic masking can be harmful for Aspies like myself, and people who have ASD like myself, and HFA, high functioning autism, which is the same, because around 2013/2014, they merged, like twins with one body. The twins kind of fuse. They have two heads, and they are just one. They have like two heads, but they're really one. They have two heads, but they're one. Two heads, but they're one, right? They're one body. So that is just where we have now to be correlated. So that is where we are today, April 13, with me almost 3.5 years since I've accepted my difference, and I will always be different. I will always have Asperger's. It's not something that I'm ashamed of. It's nothing really to be ashamed of. As many Aspies, I am myself above average in mathematics, although I'm no Claude Shannon or Bill Gates. I'm above average in mathematics, and there's always mathematical calculations, percentages, ratios. Even now, earlier before I started filming, I didn't film right away because it was raining. I don't want to damage my work too, because this is my work now. This geopolitical rock-and-roll meditation, and it's part of my YouTube, being a YouTuber with a dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and of course, that relationship, of course, of being who I am, is that when I left and I checked the price of gas, it was 198.9. So it went up by about 12 cents. 12 cents since last Friday, 3.5 days ago. It was 186.9. So that's 12 cents, 12, 13 cents. So it's going back up again. And of course, my special interest, because usually, generally, people like myself with Asperger's, we have what's called special interest, aka also known as obsessive interest. Although I don't use the word obsessive, because an obsessive is a more terminology term that neurotypicals you would employ, you would use, you would have obsessions, while we Aspies, what we have on the spectrum are special interests, where we can be super focused, super concentrated, super intense, super dedicated. Myself, even this morning, I spent since early in the morning, I did some cleaning, did some YouTube work, did a video coffee discussing geopolitics. So overall, all of my work before I left for my long march was about 6 to 7 hours of geopolitical analysis, geopolitical thinking, revising my strategies, my philosophies, revising events, and there's always constant geopolitical events, right? Every hour, because there's always a sunset and a sunrise somewhere in the world. There's a sunset and a sunrise, right? Now the sun is rising in China, Beijing, the capital of China, North Korea, South Korea, Japan, India, right? So there's always events that are happening. From what we know, when I get back home, it could be that China invades Taiwan. It's a non-resolved conflict. If we go back to 2019, I predicted what's happening now in a general manner. I even have proof. So Aspies, sometimes we excel at our special interest. However, I had much difficulty, like many Aspies, keeping long-term employment. Long-term friends. Keeping long-term employment, keeping long-term friends. Keeping long-term employment, keeping long-term friends. So that has been a problem. That has been a constant problem. And many Aspies, we have these routines, right? So I can myself incorporate hours and hours of other work, working with or for or with somebody. I had jobs which I loved. But our community, my tiny community, we're a tiny minority, less than 1% of the world population. I'm speaking as a North American, Canadian, Quebecer, always putting for the 10, the 50, and the 3. But Aspies, generally, we are less than 1% of the population of mankind, So we're less than 1%. 1% of the population of mankind. Less than 1% of the population of mankind, right? So being that we're less than 1%, we have these weird, strange, awkward, bizarre ways of doing certain things, or the way we interact, certain mannerisms, and we certainly can be lacking social skills, when to speak, when not to speak, personal space, repeating words, which is called echolalia also, or echolalia is repeating the words or the phrases that we might hear from somebody. Or we can be sometimes very straightforward, very direct, seemingly abrasive or rude or offensive. It's not that we mean by volition, intention necessarily. It's just because our brains really works differently. We have to be told, and even in the workplace, things have to be precise, preferably written down, point by point, with exactly, and and the directness also. Straightforwardness is best, at least with myself as an Aspie, but generally, precise language. Sometimes we get jokes, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have our sense of humor ourselves. I certainly learned to laugh at myself. Took me years and years and years to accept it, only recently, and it's always a work in progress to manage the characteristics, because I don't like violence. I do not like violence. I am hyper vigilant. However, I do have, I guess, PTSD. I live with my scars and trauma, and I'm still going to update in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. Final last deadline, July 1st to propose marriage for the third time. Last and only deadline, otherwise. Come here, moving to the mountain with a red scarlet and that black and 5-star buttons. That black jacket, which I have, it's actually a military style, NATO style general from November 2014 jacket. It's the only item that I think I brought from over where I used to live. I've been living where I live now for 10 years. I moved there with nothing, and I made lots of friends in the past 10, 11 years, but I lost most of them. Most of my friends I lost. That's why I don't want to waste anybody's time. Don't waste mine. Friends with benefits, 21st century friends with services. You got to be 18 plus for that play. For that play, you have to be 18 plus on that adult side. If you're black or white or rainbow, man or woman, trans, we can trace some massages, Got my little scar androgynous pansexual clit, dick, lick, clit. Maybe you get sometimes a little bit more than 6 inches, but maybe double. God is blessed magic in the coming 11 weeks, who knows? But yeah, that's that rock and roll. Minimum 6 inches guaranteed. Possible more. Minimum guaranteed. Anyways. So, but I'm not desperate. I'm not looking for anything romantic specifically. Just friends with services, friends with benefits. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I rock and roll. I write rock and roll songs. I have my dream. Mostly my work is more important. Mostly my work is more important, and mostly my work is more important. The Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom is mostly my work for the North American Collective, right? The North American Collective Civilizational Complex, where we have now to be correlated in the dynamics of where we are to represent ourselves, and to be now the coefficiency where we have now to exact our strategies together as an individual and the collective, of course, where we complement ourselves, and that complementation is, of course, something where we got to correlate in this great public-private partnership, of which my dream is part of, to basically do the public-private partnership representation, or actually to take action and implement my Trinity of theories. Is mostly what I have as work as the volition for the dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, or the Imperial Republic, where we have now to categorize all the Imperial Republic where we co-represent ourselves with, and of course, being that I myself am different, and that difference comes from my autism, which again I don't mask. Generally, I don't mask. Maybe sometimes there's a subconscious. We're not totally aware that I might be masking or try to mask, or maybe masked more in the past. But nonetheless, that is the relationship of what we got now. So yeah, that is just autism, and that is where we're going to close the chapter on autism. And again, I recommend Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Was a great book which discusses Asperger's at length, and it's really, really my favorite book. If I find it and have enough money to buy it, I will purchase it and buy it and do that XYZ, read it again. And also Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting All Their World is a Stage. So those books I recommend, which are Aspie related. So it's always geopolitics, always rock and roll, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport as long as I can remember. I've been in the open about being LGBTQ, and memory, I have a good memory of the past 11 years, 11 plus, 9, 10, I smile now because I'm joyous, happy. I was a bit moody, but I was listening to the radio the other day, and I kind of smiled because they conducted a survey. So the survey was a political survey in Canada, a social, political, cultural survey in Canada, and it was related to those born like between 1947 and 1996. So basically, the 1996 is the last year for millennials. The millennial generation is basically from 1981 to 1996. 1981 to 1996. So I'm a millennial myself, right? I'm a millennial. So if you're born in 1989, 1993, 1982, 1981, 1984, you're a millennial, like me. And so millennials, another generation before millennials, the boomers, and those born between like 1947 and 1996, the majority, 2/3, they were nostalgic about the past. They saw Canada as better, social-culturally and financially, economically. Socio-economically, so from a socio-economic, so from the business part of life, trade, commerce, and economics, financial, well-being and wellness, and from a social perspective. Now, that's the majority, or those who responded. Now, how scientific this poll, scientific or not, it kind of maybe it was. It has to be conducted a certain way. But nonetheless, 2/3 of respondents, they were all nostalgic. They viewed that Canada was better before Trudeau got elected, October 2015. So Trudeau got elected 11 years ago, more than 11 years ago, October 2015. So October 2015 it's not really, it's, okay, well, yeah, it's 11 years ago almost, right? Almost. So they viewed, for example, the Harper era, 2005, 2015, and the era before with Jean Chrétien, before Trudeau, they viewed it as a better, that Canada was better economically, socially, financially, socioeconomically. Now that's interesting because me, I don't have nostalgia. I don't have that. For me, it's my best days today, my workout every day, my rock and roll songs written, channeled every day, my accepting of autism. See, this is where it has to go. The recycling goes here. So that's why, or we have plenty on the mountain, plenty, and thank you, public workers. But see, when I check there's things that go, see, it should be going there, but some citizens, unfortunately, don't put them where they're supposed to go. See, I don't have see, like this has to go there. It doesn't go in the trash. Please make sure you recycle, right? It's not dirty at all. It's not dirty at all, so it's best if it's recycled, right? So a lot of things I'm not gonna go dig in there, but that's why we need the DJ. The DJ, in many videos you see me doing that, switching if it's reachable, if it's not too much like garbage, or if it's not too polluted, But that's why we need the Dancing Goddess Army. We need the DGA, aka the Imperial Integrated Dance League, as a mass public-private partnership to go coast to coast, ocean to ocean, Canada, United States fused, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, to dance and to do environmental education and action. Because environmental education and action is required. Environmental education and action is required. So basically, environmental education and action is required, and of course that's what we have now, and that is the component to the maximum of the strategies which we must employ for total security, total service, total defense, as we're going to fuse Canada, United States into the imperial complex and implement, of course, the strategies and do the census. So of course we're going to do the census in Concordia, and that census is going to be in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead, as we're going to create these two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League. And I love this building here. Maybe this could be the part of a barracks for the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, and the Dragon Army. Sponsor, brother, citizen Bill Gates. If I make $1 million, $1 billion, I'm gonna give my anonymous friend half and buy her a house. Actually, my financial priorities is pay my $10,000 debt. That's my main financial priority, pay my $10,000 debt and buy my anonymous friend a house. Because she deserves to have a house, because she's one of the best English speakers ever heard, teachers in for that regards, So I always got to get it on the go, and gotta, hey, what's that star? Is that a star or a satellite? Is that a star or a satellite? In a parallel life, I do build, design satellites, supercomputers, ICBM rockets. ICBM rockets, how far is it? Is it already? Because light can take us. I'm not a big astrophysician, astrophysics. I know a little bit about it. My special interest is geopolitics, sports and fitness, rock and roll, and priestess of the goddess get those kisses every full moon. I get credited another trillions of kisses. Support the dancing goddess army if you want some kisses, and that's what we got now to be related about. And I'm wondering, because astrophysically the stars can be at different distances, right? But sometimes it's actually satellites, right? Satellites can be sometimes visible if they're in the sphere, and we have more and more over the past decades, especially with the Starlink has the most, right? Starlink constellation, the Starlink constellations, and the ones that were launched by mostly SpaceX, right? SpaceX and Starlink are the most. They're smaller satellites, but they're very powerful constellations and effective, right? In a parallel life, I'm also an Aspiesque. There I build, design supercomputers, ICBM rockets, microchips, and I launch satellites. It is the year of darkness, 2030. In that parallel timeline, it is the year of darkness, approaching June 2030. The year of darkness, 2030 June. And here on D. Ramsey, I wish I could buy my anonymous friend a house somewhere over there. And yeah, we gotta get... Yeah, I wish I could buy my anonymous friend a house right here. Somewhere here, That would be nice. She was a great support. I remember in 2020, I almost died of COVID, Mid-February till mid-March, I remember my friend just giving me some teas, hot teas, and some honey in the hot teas and some liquid. So maybe I would have died if it wasn't for her help. I would have probably died of COVID. And I think I had 2 weeks ago. I think I had the cicada. I'm triple vaxxed, and I always am careful about microbes, bacteria, and germs in the public. I open carry my disinfectant. Actually, I open carry my disinfectant, but I'm always careful about. Microbes, bacteria, and germs because they're around, and we don't know up to this date what caused COVID. I have my trinity of beliefs on COVID, which is, first and foremost, I believe that COVID was transmitted from snakes to human beings. Second, I don't know for sure. Third, I cannot rule out another possibility. There's a fourth dimension to that trinity of beliefs of which I have surrounding COVID, the coronavirus, which began, I believe officially it says December 1st, 2019. The official first case is, I believe it's December 1st, right? 2019 in China, Wuhan, December 1st, 2019. So I don't know what caused COVID. What I do know for sure is that before COVID, October 2019, I predicted that there was going to be an international conflagration, and I have proof because I launched a series of World War III videos, and a series of me performing and working out, training and exercising, performing my General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army Workout, officially titled the General War Integrated Total Body Training System. It's a long title. That is the official technical title, the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the 300 workouts, aka the Dragon Army Workout, which myself I performed successfully more than 372 sessions. So I officially performed successfully more than 372 sessions. It is a simple, effective workout training that for years and years and years now I've been advocating for citizens to incorporate it in their daily lifestyle, weekly lifestyle, 3 times a week, and in universities, high schools across NATO member countries, as young as 7 years of age, as young as 7, they could be performed. Oh, there's a bunny. That's a good omen. Rabbit, bunny. Right on this house. That's French for sale. 514-933-9998. 514-933-9998. So wow, if I would have money tomorrow, I would make the deal. I would haggle, bargain a bit, but I would get my anonymous friend this house. A house like this, we can, both being powerful entities, both being powerful characters, we need a house that's big like this. Right? We need a house that's big like this. special type of marriage. I gave my final and last deadline, July 1st, to propose again, third time. It's gonna be exactly 11 years since I moved there. So that's the last deadline, July 1st. July 1st. It's when I moved there in July 2015. So it's gonna be 11th year. So I'm gonna propose marriage again, third time, July 1st of this year, 2026 is the last deadline, and that's the last deadline for me. And also in the meantime, I have to go to the Jewish General Hospital to retrieve my archives. I have to continue with my autism Asperger's because for the opening a file for support, it cost $1,200, which I didn't have. My only stress now is financial. $1,200 was because they don't offer in the public anymore. They took it away, the resources. There's a lot of cuts in the public sector. There's a lot of cuts in the public sector. A lot of cuts. I warned about this in my videos, I warned about the growing interest payments on the public debt and the encroachment, which the PBO warned, last year, a few months ago, or even last year. The PBO Parliamentary Budget Officer warned a few months ago. The PBO Parliamentary Budget Officer warned about what I warned about 3 years ago. More than 3 years ago. Now we're going to need to cut. When Trudeau was in power, I warned about it. I have it in the videos. You can check the transcripts. It's all there. Even when I say that I predicted the international conflagration that's happening now, World War III, in other words, it's all on YouTube. You can find it. It's not something that's not there. Right? The videos are available. I have 3 different channels on YouTube, and it's Adrian H. Dragon Rises, and that's what I got, for that Rock&Roll. And sometimes I post those small videos, and you can see that they're from 2019, 2020. As for COVID, again, I don't know what caused COVID. I know I was very sick. I really thought that was it for me. I said, I'm dying. And I think 2 weeks ago I had the cicada, because I had about a few of the symptoms of cicada, symptoms. And so it was mild. It wasn't that bad, but I still had to cancel going to different places because I was coughing and I had the sore throat and I wasn't feeling well. So there it is, the stars. So I guess they're not satellites, but stars are popping up, and I'm trying to situate Orion. When I pinpoint Orion, then I could pinpoint Scorpio. So Orion should be somewhere over there now. Orion should be, I think, is that Orion? If that's Orion, let me see. Oh, there's Orion. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3 in the middle. Yeah, that's Orion. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 is that where with the pyramids is the great pyramids, the 3 great pyramids of Giza, are they aligned with Orion? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 3 in the middle. So there's 7, right? 7 stars that are visible. That's Orion. So that means that Scorpio is right where the clouds are. So Scorpio is. I'm now pointing towards Scorpio because Scorpio is always opposite the sky of Orion. The myth of Artemis. Interesting that NASA's Artemis, of course. Artemis was named after a goddess, right? So Artemis, NASA was named after a goddess now, finally, after so many all of them were named after a deity, a male deity. So I'm glad it was named after a goddess. So, of course, being that the Satisfactorian, I am going to launch in the coming days, weeks, months ahead, the total solar water electrification of the Imperial Republic, because the Imperial Republic got to be total universal revolutionary centrism, pro-environment and pro-labor and love, as we're going to get rolling with the N.A.C.W.P, the North American Collective Workers' Party. The North American Collective Workers' Party, right? The N.A.C.W.P. We're going to get it rolling, of course, in the N.A.C.W.P, as we're going to get compromitted, of course, to be correlated in all the manifestations of what we have now, the plurality of our being, and got to salute the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, the electricians, the welders, the firefighters, and all those involved now in distribution and production of food, Sometimes we got to get it going on the production of food and how they're transmitting now the electricity through the waves and through the towers, and of course it's all electricity which is clean zero pollution energy, and of course that clean zero pollution pollution energy comes from 63 generating power stations, of which were built over the past, many decades. So Hydro-Quebec is actually since the 1920s, since the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, mostly over the past 60 years. Hydro-Quebec is a big institution, and of course it has been generating electricity for, actually it's even from the 20s. Someone, hey, there's the rabbit bunny. Hey, rabbit bunny, what are you doing? That's a good omen. It's coming towards me. What are you doing? He came through me. There's the bunny, see? Look. There's the bunny. Rabbit. In French is lapin. Lapin, rabbit, bunny. Look. Just there, sitting. See, that's why don't pollute. They're cute. We have them all around, eh? The bunnies. They hop fast, though. They're now staring at something. Maybe there's food he wants to go. He, she, I don't know. But see, it's just standing there, quiet, about to hop. It's rare that you see them here, but they hop around, eh? They survived. Probably in the bushes or from the mountain. See, it's just not moving. It's just staying there quietly. Almost fixed. Wow, it's an actual bunny. You're gonna see it moving, but now it just looks like it's on standby, like it froze. But when the dog is gonna come, it's probably gonna move. Hey, bunny. See? When the dog is gonna approach, then see, now it's moving. There's a bunny. Oh, the dog probably saw the bunny. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. There was a bunny. There was a bunny there in the corner. There was a bunny. And maybe the dog saw the bunny, There was a bunny there, so that's where we are. In the place of the bunnies, rock and roll. I gotta say, I gotta know. I don't throw the dice and it doesn't snow. In the spring, ready to bring rock and roll. This says it was sold. This says that this was sold, right? So that was sold there, and I've got some bunnies either around. This is the third bunny that I see today. That's a good omen. And this one, of course, has to be correlated. For me, I would actually buy my anonymous friend this house as well, but it's for sale. It's for sale. Although it has two different names. See, on one is Barry. $156 but I would actually buy it for my anonymous friend and à vendre. Give it a call and buy it for my anonymous friend, She deserves the best. And yeah, back to geopolitics. Again, I predicted what's happening now. In 2019 October, I launched October 17th to be precise. So my analysis was scholarly, academic, in depth, but there were several layers of understanding or several layers of the analysis. And the layers of the analysis were, of course, that several levels of independence were achieved. That means of my independent geopolitical theoretical analysis, because I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, philosopher, of course, and it's always something that I take great pride in, although of course in the relationships of where we have now to be correlated in the dynamics where we got to correlate ourselves is something which we got to be left and right and in the middle, and that's where we have now to be correlated in also the relationships where we don't go in the familiar aspects of the North American collective, of which we are again a collective which is not totally divorced but is distinct from Western civilization. So I lectured on more in depth on my theories, protocols, such as, of course, the privilege of civilization. Civilization is, of course, a privilege. We all have it. The traffic lights, the water, running water, the highways, the trains, right? The public transit, the sewer systems built over hundreds of years and decades, right? That's why it's building and maintaining. And even now we have a major pothole crisis. See a little pothole there. And supposedly 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, a month ago, we didn't have any money. But now it is allocated $6 million. There was an allocation of $6 million. 6 million. 2 weeks ago, it was allocated $6 million. So I guess they found some money, and the machines supposedly they're not efficient, and they tried, but it was a temporary fix. It only lasted about 2 weeks and a half, 3 weeks. This one I would buy also. That means for sale, this house. So I would buy it for my friend anyway. Even the one by the river there with the weeping willow. That one's great. You can see it in my past videos of the last summer. In the coming weeks, in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead, we're going to be heading that way again because I love going there in the spring, summer, and autumn, but usually between May and November we go on that side. By the river, I mean, southwest by the river, close to by Lachine. And there's a great house there. It's on the video. I filmed it, and I filmed the number. I don't know if it's still for sale, but it was last year. And if I would have had the money right away, I would have called that same day, same second, same moment, and made an appointment and haggled, bargained, and right by the river, by the water with the weeping willow, I would have purchased it for my anonymous friend, a house for her on the island of Montreal, Hawk Island, Montreal, in Nova Scotia, or even in Montreal, and coast to coast. So for me, it's every day carpe diem. My best day is today, My best day is today. I don't have nostalgia. For me, nostalgia is not something that, of course, I have. Right? I don't have that. It's when I go back in my past, it's trauma and loneliness, and losing friends and losing employment and living in that moldy place a few kilometers miles, still on the island of Montreal, still on the island. So that's my... See, now you're going to see 44. See, look at that. Well, it starts at 44. We're going to turn on the other side and go on I'm going to show you here something that I always find interesting. We don't have to go much. We just have to go on that side. But anyways, yeah, for me, I don't have nostalgia. And just because I was discussing how about like 2 weeks ago on the radio, they were discussing that a big proportion, a majority, two-thirds, 66%, even more, or a vast majority, the majority of Canadians born between 1947 and 1996, basically millennials and boomers, they view that Canada has the socioeconomic life in Canada. They view it as it has deteriorated. So they're nostalgic. I don't have nostalgia. For me, I was depressed, suicidal a few years. I crossed Canada coast to coast in summer 2017. I went with my anonymous friend, and I want to show you something interesting. You're going to see it starts at 44. Look. See, 44, 43, 42, 41. It's interesting, isn't it? So basically, in theory, I guess it starts at 45, but you only see 44. And the interesting part is that it's not that wide. See, it's not that big. It's only like, 25 yards maybe? Maybe like 20 yards? 25 yards? What is the distance from there? I would say between 18 and 25 yards. So it's interesting that it's a long time that's allocated. I find that I was expecting it to be 20 seconds, there, 20, 19, 18, but it starts at 45 and you see 44, the number 44, 44, and it goes down 43, 42, 41, so until zero, right? So you have in other words, you have a long time to cross. You can go tick, 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 tick. It's interesting. Most places, I never seen that before anywhere in Montreal. Let me know if you have. I wonder if there's any other place like that starts that you see 44 for the countdown, 44 seconds. Obviously, it starts at 45, but you only see the number 44 anyways. I mention it in my marches. You can see often that I discuss it and I show it because I find that it's always the same. You always see 44 for years and years and years and years. And I wonder, when was it decided that it should be allocated so much time for that area? Maybe it's just the area where we live or what have you, different factors, but I never seen it anywhere else in Montreal. Maybe the fact that it's Westmount, maybe the city of Westmount made the request that it be prolonged because 20 seconds or 30 seconds wasn't enough, and then maybe there was a vote at one point in time, 5, 7, 8, 10, 15, 20, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 2007, 2010, whenever, 2005, whatever case may be. It's possible that it's been like that for decades. Anyways, back to my reality that for me, my best day is today. I carpe diem it every day since I died of COVID. I had COVID. I almost died. I survived I remember traumas, and I have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014, which is a long time ago. January, February 2014, like October, November, December 2013. So basically late 2013, before early 2014, January, February, late 2013. I have trouble my personal memories, but personal memory loss and retrograde amnesia doesn't affect mathematical skills, linguistic skills. I speak several languages. I'm not a Claude Shannon expert in mathematics, but I always kind of do percentages calculations. There's always distances, velocity calculations of monetary expenses in real time mathematics. There's always a constant mathematical calculation with me, such as, for example, looking at this car. I try to calculate the velocity. The velocity has to be the speed, basically the distance per speed per seconds per minute per hour, right? And of course the distance. I know that it's going east. I'm headed west, and the cars coming towards me, they're headed east, E-S-T. I'm headed W-E-S-T, west. The camera now is pointing north, and now the camera is pointing south, right? Now my camera is pointing south. Now the camera is pointing east. Now the camera is pointing west. Now the camera is pointing north. So when we discuss velocity, we have to include direction. East, west, north, south, or it could be southeast, southwest, northwest, north, south, or other ways that we stipulate the directions. It could be a stipulation of directions and a code wording of the direction in a military strategy, such as it's inclusive for my total mobile defense theory when I don't overly discuss it too much, and that's why we have to not overly discuss it too much, but that is just the prudence, of course, of the manifestation of where we are now to be related upon, and of course that relationship is where we are integrally in all the manifestation of the dictum, of course, to be in the dictum of the side, and of course the manifestation of all our civilizational complexities, put it to my point in time, point event now, that although the socioeconomic deterioration of the North America, Canada, United States, for many citizens who are struggling financially, myself included, but I gotta be grateful, thankful that I paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, got a 300-gram chocolate bar. So, being that I have the 300-gram chocolate bar, that is always something which I gotta be grateful for, because I have the chocolate bar. So, after this workout, I'm gonna feast on a budget, and I have some milk, which I'm grateful for, milk, and paid my rent, my Netflix for the month, paid Netflix for the month, all my bills except for one, the phone bill, which last Thursday there was a notification which I got 2 weeks. I got not until this Thursday, but next Thursday. So I have prepared the money in advance to pay it fully. It's gonna be I had planned it in the budget, so it's not gonna be a necessary burden, right? I already have. In other words, I have the money to pay it. In other words, because I counted in the accounting at the beginning of the month. Always, I never missed paying my rent. I always paid my rent. I never missed a rent payment. Even when I lived over there in that moldy place, I always paid. I used to live in a moldy place, and I remember have these flashes, and I was on the ground being kicked in Montreal downtown area, like early dawn, and at once I survived a vicious, murderous, homicidal surprise attack. I was hit in the head, hit my head on the ground, on the concrete, had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, and of course that was the right arm or right shoulder where I had, of course, to be. But that dislocation, that was a dislocated right arm or shoulder, which left me all bloodied up. It would have been an automatic expulsion from any sports league, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, which I request, please, the owners and the players reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9% and give some charity for the public workers. Give them some tickets to those who pick up the garbage, the recycling, the trash, Give them a little bit of those tickets. Got to give them a little bit of those tickets to be, and that's 44.9%, which of course have to be relegated in, but that's of course the accounting of which needs to be done. So 44.9%. That's my estimated cost. Of course, my estimated cost. So the estimation of the cost, which has to be included upon, of course, in that appellation where we are now, that is just the relationship of where we have with being charitable and acts of goodness and kindness. I can do mine when I can with much volunteering, and I don't like violence. I do not like violence. But I am hyper vigilant. Sportsmanship, Granddaddy Trump first in a boxing match, and let's build the Forgotten Goddess Temple. GODDSS, Goddess, Forgotten Goddess Temple, because I credit my surviving COVID to the Forgotten Goddess, and that vicious, murderous, homicidal in nature surprise attack, which would have warranted an expulsion from any sports league. I went to the Jewish General Hospital, bloodied up, and the doctors at the ER, emergency room, emergency department, performed a procedure. They cracked back medically my right dislocated shoulder, and they gave me some medication, and I was given a removable cast. Put my arm in a removable cast. And I want to know, when did I go for that procedure? That medical procedure which they performed? And what was the medication? What were the meds? They were prescription meds. Were they opioids? I wonder if they were opioids. I wonder if they were painkiller opioids, or if they were to heal the tissue, the arm, or if they were just for pain. I want to know what medication, what were the meds. At the Jewish General Hospital I went last week, but I missed the deadline by 7 minutes. I was there 7 minutes late. It warranted being late because I lost that glove, and I lost like 15-20 minutes because I turned back. Usually I don't turn back when I lose my own gloves, but that one was gifted from my friend, and I auctioned them for $1 million. They're the best gloves I ever had, and they kept me warm so good, and they're so warm, and they have this little zipper, and they look like almost from the future, future gear, like almost like they're fire resistant, like sort of like from the future, almost from cyborgs type of cybernetic organisms type of gloves. So I love them a lot, and my anonymous friend gifted them to me, and I had dropped one glove. When I dropped something at the garbage, it came out from there, and it was like crow, so I found it. I got the pair now. It was just one glove, the right glove, which was dropped. So when I figured out that I was going to put the gloves, I figured out, I'm missing one glove. And I turned back to check where did I drop it, and I found it. But I lost time because I was heading towards the Jewish General Hospital. So the delay was worth it because I found the gloves, so that was important. And I guess the date will not change, right? The records will still say, oh, you were here, I don't know, maybe October 25th to 2013, maybe 2014, February 11th, I don't know. Probably between 2013 2014 when I went, because I have trouble with personal life memories. Sometimes memory comes back. So I don't know if I was a junkie, if I did drugs. I don't do drugs now. I live a very active lifestyle. I even have legal cannabis that I purchased 3 years ago during COVID. I still have leftovers, and it's been years I haven't smoked cannabis. It's not really for me that much, but I guess once in a while I don't mind. Maybe with Elon Musk discussing doing the partnership. Me, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Granddaddy Trump knows that I would have not voted for Biden. That I would have voted for Biden, not him. I'm no MAGA. I'm far from MAGA. I'm a universal revolutionary centrist best. Granddaddy Trump did some mistakes. I made mistakes, but we need to reconcile in the universal revolutionary centrist for the 21st century North American coded with our common manifest destiny, the fusion and the union of the true north, strong and free with the land of the free and the home of the brave via my Trinity Arteries best. Once in a while I have a drink. If I can afford, I'll buy a wine, but I don't know if before February 2014, late 2013, I don't know if I was a junkie. From what I know, I was there in 2010, and of course in 2005. In 2005, I was there, of course. In 2005, I was there, of course. I was there in 2005. I was living in Greenfield Park, 2007, 2005 and 2007. 2007. I was living on Victoria in Greenfield Park. But I don't know, personal life memories. I don't know if I was a junkie, if I was doing drugs, alcoholic, if trauma, whatever, the mold. I have a good memory of living there from like spring 2014 to like summer 2015. Like summer 2015. Okay, I moved there in July. Like summer 2015, right? So that was a long time ago. I moved there already. It's going to be 11 years in July. Wow. 11 years. And I was from like early 2015, 2017, right? For like almost 3 years, I was depressed, suicidal. And I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, who I consider family, and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states. The king is absent. We should have been a republic 1st of January, the year 2000, 26 years ago, with the turn of the millennium, third millennium. The king gotta go, King of England, and our prime minister pledges allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. I think we should buy one way ticket back to England to Mr. Connie, Uncle Connie, but it's just our prime minister since Confederation and Prime Minister Carney pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. To the King of England and his heirs. To the King of England and his heirs, pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. Can you imagine? To the King of England and his heirs. To the King of England and his heirs. I pledge allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. The King of England and his heirs. The King of England and his heirs. Pledged allegiance. Can you imagine? Pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. That was a long time ago, right? King of England. He came a little bit, I guess, for the speech of the throne, but the king is absent. Time for the Republic, and my way to fuse Canada and United States best via public-private partnership. Now, I did not predict Donald Trump's re-election. I was 50-50. But when I predicted the coming World War III in the coming 7 years, in 2019, October, Donald Trump was still president. Was still president because he was in his first term. Granddaddy Trump had his first term, right? Granddaddy Trump had his first term in 2019, so that's when I predicted the current. Anyways, I'm gonna keep updating. I guess I'm gonna put a new deadline to go again to the Jewish General Hospital. I'm gonna say, when is the next full moon? I guess within the next 3 full moons, probably going to be July 1st, just like the third time when I'm going to propose. I hope I'm not going to be like Biden. Supposedly Biden proposed 6-7 times. He only got a yes on the 7th time. He proposed over and over to the girl until he got a You got a yes. So the legend goes. I proposed twice, but I got a no twice, and I'm gonna propose again. Special marriage, and I am androgynous pansexual for as long as I can remember it. Part of the LGBTQ community. If you're 18 plus, gotta be 18 plus for that play. If you're black or white or black, white, rainbow, black or white, a man or woman, trans man, trans woman, whatever. Friends with services. That's it. That's all rock and roll. Write it on paper. We agree, consent, and that's it. That's all we do, and that's all we have, and that's how we gotta get it on that rock and roll. So it's always a meditative aspect, and it's always the consequential reality of being and having been integral about and having been on the discussions and having had the discussions and having had the prediction, which has turned into reality, of course, in the past years, has of course turned into reality. But of course, that is just the relationships of where we have now to be related, of course, in all the domains. But that is just the reality and the faculty of being who I am, different, androgynous, pansexual, Aspian. I suffered, struggled, was depressed, was suicidal. I don't have nostalgia. For me, it's today. I don't have nostalgia. Suffered, struggled. Who cares? It's in the past. And I died several times being reborn, and I'm not looking for pity or consolation. I'm looking for friends with benefits, friends with services in my dream, because my dream is also for the greater good as much as it is for myself. With all the flaws, vices, I don't make any pretense that I don't have any. I made a little bit, of course, of progress in being able to manage my Asperger's, which has not always been easy. And I have my ritual routines, I guess, typical, you call it a discipline. A discipline it is, but it's a special interest, and ritual routines for me, I guess, aka discipline. But acts of goodness and kindness are important for me. Charity, some justice, and I'm not perfect and far from it. I predicted what's happening now. My theory is best to move forward, of course, in the correlation, of course, of to be now, and the relationship what we got now correlated and got to be in the left and the right and in the sphere of the manifestation of the dictums and the relationships of which we have with each other, that we have a lot of work to do, and I'm all about work, all about work. No nostalgia for me. Although my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, and many in the US seem to be those born between 1947 and 1996, there seems to be 2/3. That's a big portion. Majority are nostalgic about the past. I am not. For me, it's today. My vision, dream, the public-private partnership, Dancing Goddess Dragon Kingdom, the DRT, Death Fusion Theory, and other theories which have to be implemented, the CIT, for total SSSD, security, service and surveillance, and defense, for defense and regeneration. And of course, to do certain activities, I was saved by the goddess at the table, and to do certain actions such as I did in 2016, 10 years ago. I did an intervention, what I technically call the Special Integrated Citizen Security Intervention, or Integrated Citizen Security Intervention, Integrated Security Citizen Action, where I discovered in a freely distributed newspaper called Hawaj Voice of the People, Islamic State propaganda. I discovered it. It was clearly should have never been published, and now seeing that there's a resurgence of the Islamic State, and I'm proud of that work because it averted a possible mass casualty event, a terrorist attack, possible even a Bataclan, October 7th type of attack here in North America, in Quebec. Canada, Montreal is a big populated city. In 2016, I discovered to my horror that article, which was Islamic State propaganda calling on citizens to pledge allegiance to the Islamic State and start to attack us. I get goosebumps when I discuss it right away. I took several copies. I marched to the RCMP office. Should be there with the video of me doing the report, and afterwards I haven't seen the newspaper published. So my interventions saved lives, and all these little interventions along the past 11 years since I moved from that moldy place. When I go back there, I guess I get flashbacks or trauma living in that moldy place. I would have died there probably I would have died there in that little jail place. It was not really an official jail cell, but it was like a jail. I guess I served my time, and I didn't even have a bathtub there. I'm grateful I have a bathtub where I live now, but I didn't have one there. I didn't have one there, so I didn't even have a bathtub. So that is the component of where we are now, to be correlated in all the dynamics. But that intervention saved lives without hesitation. I went to the RCMP. Clearly was a failure of our intelligence community. CSIS, CIA and CSIS are co-equal. We got to fuse them into the IC, Imperial Security Integrated Service, the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, and the CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service. We got to fuse them, of course, in the concomitant where we got now to be correlated, but of course, CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and the CIA and CSIS, we have to fuse them. We have to fuse them into the Imperial Security Integrated Service and the RCMP, the FBI. We have to fuse them into the CPS, Citizen Police Service, aka Imperial Police Services. We got to do the great census of Canada, United States, and be ever vigilant. Now there's a resurgence with the Iranian conflict. There could be even sleeper cells, Iranian regime friendly sleeper cells, mostly. We're not really involved, Canada, but of course we got NORAD, NATO, and my protocols and lectures over the past years for SSD as a mass PPP, public-private partnership, have to be, of course, implemented in the domain where we have to implement them now. And of course, that is the correlation and correlative aspect of me having done that action, which saved, prevented lives, a mass casualty event. Get goosebumps when I discussed it. I couldn't believe what I was reading, and right away I marched with several of those newspapers. I did my citizen report, and the RCMP should have done the contacting this Department of Homeland Security, the CIA, CSIS, and all the North American FBI, CSIS, and all other security of all North America. And of course, I guess that video of me should be somewhere in red. In this case, it was me as a citizen who did the security intervention, and I did anti-terrorism work, fundamentally anti-terrorism work. I prevented a mass casualty event. So pledge your allegiance, stay ever vigilant, and let's work together for the North American Collective and finance tourism, finance wellness, finance tourism, finance food security, implement my DRT, create the UE. Pledge your allegiance, our family. We got to rebirth together for the Imperial Republic and do a census and mass finance, tourism, and fitness. I love you.